I'm here with Ted Heger and talking about reeds. In particular, we've got some pretty famous reeds here in front of us.
I studied with Marcel Tabuteau, who was been called the father of American oboe playing, and he was trained in France at the Paris Conservatory and came over to this country in the early part of the 1900s, played in the Metropolitan Opera under Toscanini, and then the New York Philharmonic under Damrosch, I believe. And then he went to Philadelphia in 1915, and he was the oboe teacher at the Curtis Institute of Music when I went there. And this is a reed that Tabuteau gave to me in 1951 when I went to study with him. And that's the only reed lesson he gave to me, was this is a reed, just copy it. And it's 63 years old now, I guess, and it's still plays very nicely. My dad was an oboe player, and he was at the University of Michigan. And in 1945 or 6, when the Second World War concluded, he was asked, because he was German descent and so forth, if he would contribute some clothes or money to some German musicians who were come out of the war and were in pretty bad shape. And so he sent an overcoat to oboists who played in the Rias Symphony, which was the equivalent of the Berlin Radio Orchestra. And in appreciation, the oboist sent my dad 3 of his reeds. And they're the old, kind of a glorified V-scrape, sort of halfway between, I don't know, the old French and German style. They're not exactly French, but they're not, anyhow, they're more French than they are American or whatever. And I remember that in the letter that he said that he sometimes wakes up at the middle of the night worried about whether his reed's going to work the next day. And so musicians' problems are the same everywhere, I guess.
And this was dating back from what year?
Either 45 or 46. It was right after the Second World War. And
now this was from your, this is the white thread.
oh, this is from during the late 40s, 1940s. Reed styles were changing, and my dad was changing from the V-scrape French style, which he was trained at, to kind of the Tabuteau scrape, American scrape. And there was a oboist who lived in Grand Rapids, Michigan, who had gone to Curtis in 1940, and he was selling reeds. So my dad decided to buy a reed from him to see how the new style of reed look like. It's been a long time since I tried this reed, but I guess it played all right, as I remember. But he never went into music. I went into his family business, and okay.
That one's yours.
Oh, that's right. I was using blue thread for a while. This is kind of a neater reed than I usually made. Try to make kind of a medium long tip, I guess, and tried to get a little hump in the back and spine in the middle, little edge, kind of an American scrape. We never got much help with our reeds at Curtis. As I mentioned, we just got Tabuteau gave us a reed, and that was it. He didn't tell us anything about how to make a reed or anything like that, or how to fix some reeds or anything like that. He just gave a reed and just copy it. And as I remember from this reed, it played low notes real well. And my last student recital, I had two students. About 5 years ago, I was graduating from high school, and I decided to play a little trio with them. And I decided to play the third part because they had low C's and so forth. And so I used this reed, and that was the last time I used it. They were pretty good students. They both played in the youth orchestra, and were quite accomplished, went to contests and so forth. And I had another student that I couldn't stand. I said, "This is a good time to quit." I have these two nice girls that I enjoyed, and why spoil it, so I didn't teach anymore. I had to have this real brat that, lose their music or forget to take it on purpose or something.
Oh, something like that. Okay, Ted, you want to tell about this reed?
This is one of my father's reeds from, I think, the 1930s, and believe it or not, it still plays. It's the old V style, V shape, French style. That was what his teacher played on, and it's amazing that a reed would play after all these years.
And it's mostly the bark and just
Yeah.
a very little bit of tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a reed that's 80 plus years old, and it doesn't sound too bad at all.
Yeah.
Then, okay, you want to tell us about this one is your reed.
Oh. Well, I tried to imitate Tabuteau's reeds and so forth. I was not too
Or
highly...
let's go in progression. Before we do that, let's do the one that's the other French grape. And this is the German reed.
Yeah. Right after the Second World War, my father, being of German descent, was asked by someone to give money to these poor German musicians who were having a hard time after the war. They suffered through the war. So my dad sent an overcoat to this oboe player who played in the German Radio Orchestra, Rias Symphony they call it, R-I-A-S. And in appreciation, the oboe sent my dad 3 reeds in a case. And he wrote a letter thanking my dad for the coat, and how sometimes oboe playing was very hard because of the reeds, and he would wake up in the middle of the night sometimes worrying about whether his reed was going to work the next day, which is a common oboist complaint, I guess. But they're kind of the V scrape, a little more rounded rather than a straight V. I think it has more of a dip, doesn't it?
More like a clarinet,
Yeah,
single reed.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's shorter. It looks like a shorter tube.
Yeah.
And the reed itself is shorter by quite a bit than the one that your father played on.
Yeah.
This is from the
1945, 46.
So
I
still.
think the war ended in August of 45, I believe. And so.
So a little thinner
Yeah.
and a
I
little
don't
brighter.
think we ever played on those reeds.
Just kept them?
Just kept them.
You
I
must
think
not
we
have
ever
been
played
desperate enough to need a
So
reed.
it's virgin performance,
Oh.
60 years later or something.
And see, this is your dad's reed, so we played on that one.
Yeah.
So now here is the reed from the fellow in
Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids.
Yes, this is a Van Hobel, I believe Kenneth Van Hobel, who was a Curtis student in 1940, and my dad was trying to learn something about the modern scrape of the reeds and American style, and this man was selling reeds, and so we decided to buy one to see what they look like, and I think I tried it once, and they were okay, and
Put it away.
put it away for...
This one right here is the Tabuteau reed, and this one is
Okay.
this one on this side is the one that you tried.
The Tabuteau reed,
Well, let's play this one, see how it sounds.
which one is this one?
This was the one that you tried, that the fellow sold you.
okay.
The band.
Yeah.
So hasn't preserved itself quite as well.
Yeah.
But it still has a nice sound. You know, or probably had one. Now the red one, no, that's your dad's. The blue one is yours.
Yeah.
From when you played with the two gals.
Yeah, it was not my latest reeds, but it was. I kept it because the low notes work so easy. I don't know if it does anymore. But.
So here it is, again, compared with the Tabuteau reed, it's shorter.
Yeah, it's a little shorter than I usually make reeds.
Were you doing that on purpose for the low notes, or
It
just happened that day?
Just happened that day.
So the Tabuteau reed is the white one, and the Ted
Yeah.
Heger reed is the blue one. A little bit longer tip than the Tabuteau reed, but the Tabuteau reed is a very short tip, very short. Well, it plays the low C. And this one dates back quite a ways too.
Yeah, it's probably, oh gosh, 10 years now, or close to 10 years.
And then here's the Tabuteau reed, which is, if you want to talk about it, that's the one you got the first class with him?
My first lesson or two from him, the only help he gave in reeds was he gave me a reed to copy. He said, it's not a great reed, but it looks nice or something. And so this is from 1951, I believe, fall of 51.
Still sounds lovely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's amazing after all these years.
I always thought it looked nice.
Well, it does look nice. It's very, very smoothly done. The tip is very short, and the graduation from the back to the hump is very smooth. There's no big giant leap from one section to the other. Maybe much like his playing and the things that he talked about trying to propose.
Yeah, I remember.
Ted used to always check out his oboes and reeds with me in the basement. That's the closest to how you used to sound, Ted, of the stuff that's been going by. That was closest. Well, who made that? What's that?
This is the Tabuteau. We've got some English horn reeds here, and this is, I'll read the statement you wrote about this. You wrote a little note about it. Serpentini was the second oboist in the Cleveland Orchestra. He was known as an excellent reed maker and made reeds for the first oboist, Mark Lifshitz, who was a great oboist, but lousy reed maker. Ted's words, Serpentini. Serpentini was not a Tabuteau first student?
Well, he was one of Tabuteau's.
Oh, okay.
First student,
Can't read your
Tabuteau.
writing. Serpentini
Tabuteau
was
always
one.
gave a free lesson to anybody in uniform because he escaped fighting in World War I, but his brother was wounded and was gassed in the First World War and was a cripple all his life. So Tabuteau was never money hungry from his students. He always was very generous with his time, and he didn't really charge that much, you know. And but anyhow, Serpentini then, Tabuteau came in the Philadelphia Orchestra in 1915, and Mr. Serpentini, who was from Philadelphia, joined the Navy during World War I in 1917, and was stationed in Philadelphia. There's a Navy yard there, and he came in his uniform. So he was one of Tabuteau's first students in Philadelphia, and this is before the Curtis Institute was founded, which was in about 1926. So Serpentini often came back to Philadelphia because his brother played second clarinet in the Philadelphia Orchestra, and his sister lived in Philadelphia. And he died when I was leaving Curtis. He died of throat cancer. He was playing second oboe in Cleveland. I think he also played in Pittsburgh before that. And so his sister was selling his instruments, and somebody told me that his English horn was for sale, and so I went, I gave a bid on it, and used it for my whole career. And when the first time I had to play in the Marine Band and play William Tell, and I used these reeds until they were too worn out, and I had to learn how to make them myself.
Okay, let's show that,
Yeah.
get it closer to that reed.
But he often came to Philadelphia, and all these oboe players from Philadelphia would look up Genovese, because Genovese was kind of a child prodigy on the oboe. Sorry. And Genovese said that Serpentini came around and said, "Do you have a passable reed? I don't have a passable reed, and I'll give you lots of cane if you give me one passable reed." So Genovese came with a passable reed and had a bunch of cane from Serpentini, who understood the gouts almost as well as Tabuteau. But in the old days, actually not many people made their own reeds. Ferdinand Gillet in Boston was a nephew of George Gillet, the famous teacher in Paris, and he always bought his reeds. He would have somebody in France to send him a year's supply, and then he would go through them for that year. He had so many that he would get. He never made his own reeds. And Tabuteau was one of the first, I guess, to make his own reeds entirely. In fact, he said his teacher would make reeds for his students for the lessons, but he said I could never use his reeds for orchestral playing. So I had to learn to do it myself. And I was amazed when I moved here how few oboe players here make their own reeds. Even ones that did make them at one time just kind of took the easy way out, I guess, and buy them. Some of them are pretty decent players, but they just never made reeds or always bought them or something. Well, one girl actually did make her own all the time, but now she mostly buys them.
Well, did you ever have, were you ever in the instance where he would have taken a reed from you because yours was better than his?
No, I never had to worry about that. I think when he did play, a few times he would try my reeds, he'd purposely play them as bad as he could, so they see how terrible it is.
Did he ever come out and make an outright compliment? Or was it always something backhand? You don't sound as bad as yesterday or something like that?
Yeah, it's not bad was considered not bad was considered a real compliment. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Ted. This has been
Oh,
great.
my pleasure.
We hope you come back and join us, and we hope this inspires you to get with your teacher and continue this next generation project. Thanks.